Today we're going to be reviewing Vital Meal. TLDW. This did a lot better than the Blue River diet. I actually highly recommend this gecko diet, so make sure to stick around to see why I recommend it. But for those of you that don't have time, it's good. I like it. So after my last gecko diet review, I had tons of people reach out to me and tell me that I had to try out this new diet that's on the market. It's from Korea and it's called Vital Meal. So I went ahead and I placed my first order and I reached out to the main distributor of Vital Meal because Vital Meal is a Korean diet. So there's mainly just distributors that will distribute it in America. So I told them I wanted to do a review and I was getting a sample pack, and they offered actually to ship a bunch more of the diet. So I ended up getting quite a bit of free product as well in this review. However, since then, I have spent at least $600 or $700 of my own money buying more of this diet. And after testing this thoroughly for the past 3 months, I can now say with confidence that, in my opinion, this might possibly be the best gecko diet on the market. And I know that now I am feeding my collection, majority of the time, exclusively Vital Meal. I still will switch in other brands such as Pangea's Fig and Insect and multiple different flavors of Repashy, but over 50% of the time, my entire collection is being raised off of Vital Meal. And that, I think, is a really big deal. So let's go ahead and talk about what I like and what I didn't like about it. So Vital Meal comes in 3 different flavors. I will say I only recommend these 2. I do have the 3rd flavor. However, I was even told by the people selling it that this doesn't have that good of a feeding response, namely because of black soldier fly larvae. And they also mentioned that black soldier fly larvae in general will always decrease the feeding response from your geckos. So that's interesting to note because tons of other gecko diets on the market always use black soldier fly larvae. What Vital Meal specifically recommended to me was mixing the fruit powder with the cricket flavor at about a 25% to 75% ratio. I did something like that a couple of times and I never had good responses. So I don't even recommend getting the cricket flavor personally. These 2 though, these are home runs. The insect flavor is their complete diet and the fruit is kind of more as their treat flavor. However, I've been finding really good success still implementing this about half the time with this, and it's had really good results. Not only do the geckos have a really good feeding response to the diet also lasts for about a week or 2 after you make it, so you can keep it in your fridge. Although usually I'll only make as much as I'm gonna use that day. And the ingredients are pretty minimal. I don't think there's a single gecko in my collection that doesn't absolutely devour this. It's actually some of the best feeding responses that I've had. Dare I say it's even comparable, if not better, than Pangea diet. That's just from my own personal anecdote. One thing that I really like is how simple the ingredients are. I'm gonna read them both for you. Again, the insect is their advertised complete diet and the fruit is more so a treat. Dried banana, dried cricket, whey protein isolate, flaxseed meal, bee pollen, vitamin C, lecithin, coconut, oat dietary fiber. And then essentially after that, it's just vitamins. And at the very end of the list, second to last, is xanthan gum. So they have lecithin and xanthan gum in it. But again, I understand that it needs to be there on some level to help with the, the consistency and making sure that things don't separate once they're mixed together. Compare that to some other diets that we've reviewed on this channel. That's a lot cleaner. I guess I'd also like to mention that the first ingredient that is dried banana, only on the fruit package it says organic banana, and on the insect it doesn't mention it on the front. I don't know what that's about, but the first ingredient is an actual fruit powder. The second ingredient is actually insects. And then the third ingredient is red-blooded American bovine whey protein. I don't know where they source it from. Come on, guys. Those already, the first 3 ingredients are pretty good. Dried banana, whey protein, flaxseed meal, bee pollen, vitamin C, lecithin, pineapple, coconut, oat dietary fiber, calcium carbonate, and then a list of vitamins, and then the second to last ingredient is xanthan gum again. It's a very short laundry list of ingredients, and I, for one, appreciate that. And I didn't want to just test this for a few times and say, hey guys, it looks like they ate it a couple of times, I recommend the diet. I've been testing this for the past 3+ months, I've kind of lost track, but now I get excited every time I feed the Vital Meal because almost none of it goes to waste. While before, whenever I fed Repashy, especially when I fed the last diet that we reviewed, a lot of it goes to waste. I would say probably 40% of it ends up not even being eaten. When I'm feeding the vital meal, even with my hatchlings all the way up to full-grown adults, every single stage of development, the geckos are devouring it. They're eating it like crazy. I can't, say that I've been using it for years and years and say that it has the best results long-term, egg production-wise and fertility-wise and everything like that. But there's nothing that is in the ingredient list that is going to lead me to believe that something bad could happen after long-term use. And talking with other gecko breeders that are also testing out the diet, they've also been having very similar and positive results. I also spoke to the distributor in America for Vital Meal about how long they tested it, and from what they told me, it was being tested in private collections for a long time, like upwards of 5 years before they brought it to market. So that gives me some confidence in feeding this to my geckos. And again, I've been feeding it now for like 3 or 4 months with really good results. So let's talk about what sizes it comes in. It comes in a 50-gram bag, a 500-gram bag, as well as a 3-kilogram tub. Although now they've told me they are going to start shipping these out in bags. So for us red-blooded Americans out there that don't know what a kilogram is, this is essentially about 1 banana's weight. This one is about 5 bananas weights. And this one is pretty much like 4 bunches of bananas weights. Another thing to mention is they do have a wholesale program. So if you're someone like me that has hundreds of geckos to feed, it's a relatively seamless process to apply for a wholesale account. It's pretty much just fill out a form on their website and about 99% chance they'll probably accept you. They do have a minimum price for their wholesale orders, that's $400. However, if you're feeding a lot of geckos, if you place a $1,000 order or greater, you actually get free shipping, so that's kind of nice. I know for me, I like to always have 6 months plus worth of food on hand at all times. If I can have 6 months worth of food on hand, worst case, I can't make a single sale, I can't, do any shows, I break both of my femur bones or something like that, I've got enough food on hand to really, hold me through a winter, if you will. So I like to always get tons more food than I actually need. What if there's a supply chain shortage? So I try to always have at least 6 months worth of food on hand. First negative, this is just me being a little nitpicky, and I'm just gonna say it. I don't like that they put the little beef jerky packs in their diet either. And I asked why they do this, because even though they tell their customers that you don't need to put it in the freezer or refrigerator, some customers will still put it in the freezer or refrigerator, and then when they take it out, because it's going from cold to room temperature, there ends up being condensation, and the little packets on the inside help prevent it from molding and getting, spoiled from that condensation. Look at that. Thank you very much for that explanation. Unlike I'll give them this, the packets are bigger than other ones that I've seen, so it's pretty easy to spot them when you're actually making the diet in bulk in a blender, and the packets have like big red text on them too, so they're pretty easy to find. It's not actually that big of a deal. Had to be said, I don't like that there's a little silica packets in there. It's not a deal breaker though. As I said, I've been switching to this completely. The real downside that I know everybody's going to be asking is, what is the price? I can't remember the price exactly off the top of my head, but it is a considerable amount more expensive than the competition. And specifically being in the largest tubs, it's not a direct comparison because these are 6-pound tubs, and the competitors like Pangea and Repashy, they sell 4.4-pound tubs or 2-kilogram tubs. So these are 3 kilograms, they sell 2.2 kilograms. At the end of the day, it's like $10 or $15 more expensive for this diet. The way that I look at it is the geckos are already so cheap to feed compared to other species. Like you guys have seen in my comments or in videos I've mentioned, if this was like ball pythons or something, or bearded dragons, the cost to feed, the same amount of ball pythons or bearded dragons is exponentially more expensive than what we're able to get away with feeding a collection of this size. Let's say that for me, I'm spending about $2,500 a year on gecko diets. If I had this many bearded dragons, I'd be spending $2,500 a month on crickets. I'm not worried about investing just a little bit more into my gecko's diet to get them a little bit higher quality food. I have also been testing them with doing my own kind of concoction. You guys know how I like to add in grass-fed whey protein, maybe some bugs, do some kefir, some raw fruit, all of that. And I've found that the feeding response has been even better when doing stuff like that. In order to make the fruit flavor a complete diet, you pretty much just need to get a bunch of bugs and blend it in there. And it has still a great feeding response. I would love to see different flavors. With only 2, that isn't really enough for everybody to be full-time Vital Meal. While it's probably not wise to put all of your eggs into one basket, right, or into one incubator, which I currently am doing, incubator review coming up, it would be nice to see different flavors. Currently, just having a fruit flavor and an insect flavor is it covers the bases, but I'd love to see other flavors. We want to be able to switch up the diets that our geckos are eating, because if you ate pizza every day, eventually you'd get tired of it. So it'd be nice to be able to at least have 3 rock solid flavors to have in rotation. But that about does it. That's my review of Vital Meal. I highly recommend it. I think it's possibly one of the best, if not the best, gecko diet on the market currently in 2025. Keep that in mind. I think they're at a really great start. I think that they have a really good product, and I really recommend it.